Hello, the theatre practice that I will be talking about today is commedia dell'arte. Commedia dell'arte translates to exactly commedia of artists, but its true meaning is theatre of professionals, and this originated in the streets and markets of the 14th to 16th century, so the Italian Renaissance, which is much like Rakugo, which also was born in the Renaissance of the Edo period. They were called the theatre of professionals because the Renaissance brought about a bout of artists and musicians that the medieval period suppressed. Artists became revered and actually paid for their work. These Italian street performances, done with the exaggerated masks that had comic features, drew attention to themselves and complemented their physical and acrobatic skill. The troupes eventually teamed up to establish commedia dell'arte as an actual genre. Although its roots are in the Italian Renaissance and the birth of the new period, it can also be traced all the way back to ancient Greek and Roman theatre. The masked improvised comedy of the Roman Atellane farce tradition, the mime of the Byzantine world, and the modern piazzas that featured performers, charlatans, and all influenced the commedia dell'arte theatre practice that the Italian Renaissance brought about. Commedia dell'arte, commedia troupes are formed for all. Commedia dell'arte troupes performed for all and were accessible to all social classes. Language was no barrier with because of the physical nature of the performances. It was all about skillful mime and stereotyped stock characters. So with that, you can see that stock characters are they are universal. You can see them in every person, in every country. Traditional lazzis, masks, broad gestures, improvised dialogue, and clowning all became accepted vastly wherever they travelled. And in around the 1500s, commedia dell'arte did progress from Italy and Italy alone throughout the rest of Europe. In return, commedia dell'arte has managed to influence the likes of Picasso, Charlie Chaplin, the Marx Brothers, Rowan Atkinson, and Mel Brooks. It also has influenced people such as, or TV shows such as Seinfeld. I talked about some of the key features earlier. Masks, improvisation, Lazzi, slapstick status. These are all things that I'll go on to talk about later on in my presentation. So stock characters are one of the key features of commedia dell'arte, and there were four types. So Zani, which are the servants / clowns, Vecchi, old men, Innamorati, the lovers, and Il Capitano, which is just a captain who's boasting captain, basically. Masks were a very big feature in commedia dell'arte. The masks all told the story of the characters, and I'll talk about Arlecchino's mask later on in the presentation. So some of the performance conventions were, as I said before, was slapstick comedy. There are some rules of slapstick: exaggeration, repetition, dramatic ironies, and the rule of three. So you come in once, and you would come in. So say I was a Zani, I would come in with a tray of food, and I'd come in. It's okay. Oh, I come in and I'd get hit, and I drop it. Then I come in again. I get hit and I drop it, and then I come in the third time, see the person that would have hit me and avoided it, but then get hit anyway. So that's where the comedy from that would stem from. In commedia, and this is a quote, in commedia, a joke is usually made of how any violence / falls are fake. This is done by using large movements and over-the-top sound effects. So this is generally what slapstick is. What is slapstick? The term actually comes from the prop carried by an arlecchino, and it's just this 2 bits of wood that once you put some force through it, they make the biggest slapping noise you've probably heard. Slapstick is a style of humour involving exaggerated physical activity which exceeds the boundaries of common sense. This usually involves someone getting hurt, as I said, with me dropping things or falling over. A lazzi is another important thing to commedia dell'arte. Arlecchino uses these a lot. Lazzi is a short improvised moment purely for entertainment. This might be humorous remarks, acrobatics, juggling, wrestling. So sometimes when I was reading through some of the scripts, I thought that, oh, this isn't that funny, but then that would have, probably the humour would have come from being a lazzi or something like that. Movement. So I'm going to be talking expressly about Arlecchino's movement today. And this is how he is physically. So I'm going to use all of these to see. I'm going to use this to all. I'm going to use this to influence how I act. Let's see. Yes. Sorry. This line comes from Servant of Two Masters. The second scene. He's got the first line. It says, my most humble greetings, ladies and gentlemen. What a fine, fine group. Yes, very fine indeed. So I would come in and I would say it as myself like this. My most humble greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and I would use movements such as this, quite small movements. But then when I realised that you're supposed to use all the things you learn about his character and who he is, his mask and his background. So his status is quite a lowly character. He's always hungry. He's not very smart. So he's always in two minds. So there's when you're talking, you would show that he's in two minds by pointing your feet out and always looking around like this. He's also a very sneaky character, so he takes long strides and points his toes and steps like this, and they're quite exaggerated, maybe even more so than I'm doing right now. Also, he's quite a lowly character. As I said, he has a low status, so he has an artwork, so maybe he would walk a bit more like this. And he's very over the top and exaggerated, because he always wants to do, although he's a mischief maker, he is a servant and he's always doing his job, so he's always very lonely. So maybe I would walk in and say, my humble greetings, and bow down and make my movement very, even more exaggerated. Sorry.
Alright, we're not going to use this one, so just take a break.
Oh, okay. His arms are often bent with his hands on his hip in readiness to serve, so something like this. As I said, his lower back is always arched, his legs turned out, sometimes with the heels rather than the toes. He runs quickly and lightly, always kicking his feet forward. He sneaks to steal food with large exaggerated steps, as I said, and he can stop in an instant. So even especially when he's caught in one of his pranks, so I would be running, and then if someone called me, I'd stop straight away. The effect it has had on me as a performer. I am quite a physical person, but when it comes to doing movement, I'm more about doing movement to music, but not usually using exaggerated gestures. I'm quite a reserved person in that respect. So exploring how Arlecchino works, I've learned to express some of the things I say more with my body language instead of maybe how I would usually do it with dance. These are my sources.
Well, Miss Dawson would have ruined your exam, so